Hey guys, it's John. I'm playing 5-minute, and I've got a 2300 rated opponent, Green Day 27 from Spain. Let's go bishop g5 against this perky setup. I just saw a game involving this type of setup for white, so I'll try to replicate it to some degree. It's a good night to play some blitz chess. It is raining here in Minnesota. Pretty much has been raining all day, which is really weird because in December it shouldn't be raining. It should be snowing heavily if there's any precipitation. So I hope we're not in store for a rainy Christmas. That would just be weird. We Minnesotans like to talk about the weather. It just happens. When you don't know what to talk about around here, you talk about the weather. So he seems a little hesitant to commit to a setup. He's trying to puzzle out what he should do. I'd say probably bishop e6 was not a bad option for him. He would have been threatening knight takes e4 in that case. Now, what to do? Can develop my bishop or play knight ge2. I could break in the center. I could play h4. Let's go knight ge2. Just flexible move. I might send this knight to c1 and stick it on b3 for defensive purposes. Okay, he strikes back in the center. Take that. I'll just proceed as normal. Go knight c1. I don't trust e5. I think that would have been a better plan if his pawn was on g6, like in, say a King's Indian, for instance. But it looks sketchy here. h4 seems normal. Get him to play g4. Now, I can play h5 and try to nail his knight to the f6 square, so he has to stay defending this. Also introduces ideas like bishop h4 or maybe rook h4 at some point. Okay, I'm liking what I see here. Let's just develop. Maybe I should have gone knight b3, but it's okay. Let's do knight b3 now. Queen c7. I can maybe sneak my knight into d4 just based on the pin I have going here, but I don't want to do it yet. I think now I should just play f3 maybe. Yeah, let's just do that. Huh. So I think he's saying essentially that he's just going to put his knight on the f4 square. So I take, you go knight f4. I could play g5. g5 take h6. Okay, we're just going to go for this. Oh, he plays knight g5. So he's doing like a blockading sort of idea. All right. Queen e3. I'm going to bring this knight back, I think. I'm going to go knight d2 and try to stick it on f3. I think it's run its course on b3. Okay, so he just took that pawn. It's fine. Should probably go here. Now bishop h4 maybe. He can always support his knight with f6. He'll probably have to. probably will have to do that, but... see if I can extract anything by playing this move. You can go queen b6 now. Seek a trade. It's probably not a bad idea. I think I misplayed this a bit. I didn't see the whole knight g5 thing. I thought only his knight that was coming into f4. I think he should play queen b6 at this point. Plays rook d4 instead. Alright, let's continue as planned. Man, I'm not threatening his rook necessarily. Well, actually, oh, I could have just played queen takes d4. Because of the pin. Okay, I think I can still do it next move, if he lets me. I totally forgot about that. Could have just taken here. Yeah, he's not seeing it either. So if I take, he takes, I take here, he takes c3. The only thing is he'll still have pretty decent compensation. But I gotta think this is clearly the best move anyways. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now b3 maybe? b3, that pawn is always going to be a problem. Still, let's do it. I'm going to bring this bishop back to f4. Let's just threaten him here. And now let's go rook d1. He's already in blitz mode, essentially. Let's keep this guy out of play. Keep his king out of play for now. Gain some space. Bishop e5 might be... well, can't go bishop e5 yet, but might be an idea. Just trying to keep his play limited. Okay, now let's go here and let's go f4. Well, I could bring my rook into g6 too. I should have done that on the previous move. Because now, yeah, bishop f7. Let's go here. He's being annoying. He's being very annoying. His bishops keep me at bay quite a bit. I'm just going to bring this rook back. If he takes, I can play rook h1. Okay. I thought I had a new plan for a second, but it doesn't do too much. Wow, you're going to offer a trade. No kidding. Well, I got to take you up on that. And go after this pawn. You leave me no choice. Let's go here. I can just bring my king up next. Yeah, time's on my side. He just resigned. Okay. Woohoo, I got over 2,500. I'm 2504 now. Okay. So let's go back and analyze this sort of perk style defense. Hardly ever see that move order. C6 heading for a Caro-Kann, but then they play D6 and mix it up. I'm sure there's many things white can do here that lead to some sort of advantage. I just played bishop g5 because this is a move I've studied recently, albeit in a slightly different position. But a lot of times white castles queenside in this line. I'm relatively happy with my opening play. King b1. King b1 in a lot of openings where you castle queenside is just like a useful move. My students will know that I call this the Grandmaster move. Because Grandmasters seem to play it in almost every position that they castle long. It's just a very strong move because you defend a2 securely, so often it frees up your knight. Especially with the queen on a5, it gives you some nice options involving knight d5 with a discovered attack on their queen. And this crops up in, like, for instance, the dragon, the Sicilian dragon a lot, where one side will go, white will go knight d5, and if black takes, white might be able to play like an in-between move with their knight on d5, so like knight takes e7 check, for instance, or knight takes f6. So king b1 helps in that regard. Also avoids any trouble on this diagonal, if that ever comes up. I thought maybe he should have gone bishop e6 or perhaps b5. Like the immediate b5 might be a good option. And he played e5. This seemed premature. I didn't trust this move at all. Let's just see if the engine agrees. Because he creates like a huge hole on f5. And he's not as well developed as I am. So I'm skeptical of his decision to do that. Yeah, you can see the engine just hates that move. It gives me about a half pawn advantage as it is. I mean, that's probably a little exaggeration, but it really hates that move. It says I should play f3. I like what I did. I just liquidated the center. He can't take with the knight because I can take on d6 then. So he takes this way. Just go here. Yeah, he castled. h4. h5. Maybe I overestimated h5. Perhaps that move just isn't necessary. If I play knight b3 as the engine suggests, after queen c7, is it going to tell me I should just play like queen d6? Just play for an endgame? It says f3. Because I was thinking about doing this at various times. I'm sure this is a pleasant endgame for white. Say we trade. I just have a straightforward plan, like bishop e2 and double up the rooks. And just ask him how he plans to complete his development. I'm going to turn this engine off for a second. So maybe I should have gone knight b3. I was trying to postpone that move. So I played h5, trying to cut out h5 from him and maybe use the h4 square for my bishop or rook. But I didn't get so much. Yeah, already here, f3, and he got his knight to e6. And like I said, I just totally blanked on the knight g5 idea. Did not even cross my mind. Just thought exclusively in terms of knight f4. So let's see what the engine has to say about that. Well, it still says white's better. Knight g5, okay. What about knight f4? Says they're roughly equivalent. So knight g5. It says I should just play bishop h4. So if he goes after the pawn, I don't know, let's say this pawn takes, take, queen e3. Oh, and if the knight retreats back here, white can, at the very least, take and then grab the pawn on h6. Or maybe play something more brutal like g5. Gotcha. And if this, yeah, I think white's doing pretty well. Engine says rook hf1. Maybe bishop f6 ideas. Or g5 coming some point. Well, I'm going to say that coming up after queen e3, take, somewhere around here I probably messed up a little bit. I feel his position is becoming okay. Let's see. He's all centralized. His pieces look good. Computer says grab the pawn on a7. Materialistic computer. Yeah, I bet it didn't like queen e3. Nope. Didn't like that move. Didn't like me giving up my light square bishop either. Knight d2. So with knight d2, I was just trying to bring it to f3 and break up these guys, especially that knight on g5. Rook d4 was surprising. Oh, that's funny. It doesn't even say I should go queen takes d4. Well, maybe now it does. Now it likes it. I didn't connect, even though I was talking about how there was this pin going on right here. I was talking about that not less than like 5 moves ago from this position. But of course I like overlooked the fact that when he plays rook d4, I can just take. It's not winning like outright. In fact, like compared to the game, this looks a lot dicier because white's going to end up with a bunch of weak pawns for the being up the exchange. But I should have seen that when he played rook d4. So I went knight f3, and fortunately for me, he gave me another chance to do it. And yeah, I'd be surprised if that wasn't the best decision now. Yeah, queen takes. Wow, computer thinks this is +3. b3, that's what I did. I mean, it should be fairly easily winning. In the game, I wasn't able to demonstrate that too well. Because I had trouble breaking down his dark square bishop. Oh, wow. Rook takes d4 just wins on the spot. Okay, so if you want to, figure out why rook takes d4 is winning here for white. I'll give you guys a second. So I believe the idea is rook takes d4, bishop e5. And then his rook is under attack, and when it moves, I have rook g7. And there's going to be a bunch of windmill ideas. So let's say, I don't know, let's say rook d8, then check here. Will be the simplest way for white to do this. I mean, a simple move might just be bishop takes c3 and keep all the discovered attack threats that we have on the table and get rid of the back rank threat of mate rook d1. Yeah, and then I'm free to go and play like rook takes f7 and just start raiding all his pawns. Aha. So rook takes d4 was straightforward. And once he defends the bishop with his c5 pawn, I think it's getting a little tougher for me at that point. I just did this to make sure he couldn't keep advancing his queenside pawns. And here I should have played rook g6. I realized that right after I made my next move that this would have been strong, just winning that pawn. Unless something goofy's going on after like this take here. And I might have trouble freeing myself maybe. And this is probably also very good for white, but maybe I'd have to do something like this and then bring the rook over to g2. Okay, so that happened, and then I brought the bishop back to c1 just for defense, and also to free up my f-pawn. Turns out I didn't really have to be worried about the pawn on h5, because if he takes it, I have that rook h1 resource, and then when the bishop moves away, I have rook takes h6. So I didn't need to waste a tempo defending the pawn quite yet. And he played bishop e5 and kind of made it easier for me. Let's say he had played something like bishop f7. I was kind of debating what plan I would use to break through eventually. I don't think it's so obvious. Like I mentioned that maybe I could do this, and then bring the rook here, and then go here, and threaten like rook g7. But yeah, I guess actually that's probably a pretty good plan. I wonder if somewhere he could play f5. Like, let's say he just waits with his bishop. I go here, and then he plays f5. I wonder if that messes me up at all. Probably not, because I think I can just take it. Even though he gets a back rank check in, he doesn't have anywhere to go after this. Now he wishes that his pawn was not on c3, so he could mate me with rook a1. So there's probably several ways white can do it, but I'm just kind of envisioning, like, when this rook gets here, provided black is like just playing waiting moves, I'm either going to get into g7, or if his bishop's on e8, I'm going to get into g8. And once my rooks get active like that, I might even lose the h5 pawn, but I don't think I even care. I think he's in trouble. Granted, I probably have to be somewhat careful. And the other thing is, though, like, he's almost in zugzwang in this position after rook h3. Like, what can he really do? He can't move his dark square bishop. The only safe square is e5, and I happily trade if he does that. He could move his light square bishop to f7 or whatnot, but, you know, I continue with my plan. He could move his rook, huh? He could play like rook d7 or something. But still I bring the rook over here. The g8 threat, rook g8 is on the table. I don't know, let's say he just waits. The only thing I was kind of hesitating on was like if this happens and bishop takes h5, I probably don't want to just give up this pawn for nothing. And if I play this, he can take here. And this rook is overloaded trying to defend both of those points. So that's mildly annoying. It kind of seems like I'm just spending a lot of time on this position that seems trivially winning, and I know if I load the engine, it's going to say like +3 or 4 or something for white, but it just seems like kind of a practical issue to me. I mean, I think I have so much time I can just play rook g4. I mean, why not? He still can't take the pawn. I instantly go rook h4. Let's say he's just waiting, like, I don't know, let's say this move again, and then go rook g3. Although, even here, he can play bishop f2. I was thinking rook g3 just to defend the f3 pawn and then bring this rook in. I don't know. I'm like so close to just winning outright, but I don't see the win. The clean win, that is. Maybe I could bring my king over if I get bored. King c1, and as soon as the rook's here, just king here and put it there. Let's just see. I'm going to consult the engine. I might need to think about this longer if I were to try to figure it out without consulting the engine. Computer's not so convinced either. Okay. +2.5. So it does like bringing... Okay, now it says rook hg3. Yeah, let's say rook here. Bishop d6. Okay. Rook d7. f4. Okay, because the bishop is not under attack, because I can mate him. Rook g7, king h8, rook g8, king h7, rook 2 to g7 mate. Interesting. So f4, and I guess the idea would just be to play for e5, and eventually we're getting through. Okay. So yeah, there's going to be some way to break through, even if he does keep this bishop securely on d4. But that would have been the most tenacious for sure. And given the time situation, it's going to come down to a time scramble somehow. So he should have just battened down the hatches. Yeah, he played bishop e5 too fast. Because once these rooks get some open files to work with, it's too much. With the two bishops on, he could resist for much longer. Yeah, I think this is where he resigned, yeah. Okay, interesting one. And I got up to over 2,500, like I said with that one. Let's just see where that puts me on the best list. So, right now, I'm right here. So I'm like around number 10 on the best list. Moving up in life. Champ Buster, I'm coming for you next. Be on alert. You've been notified. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed that game. And as usual, please leave me any feedback in the comments. Thanks. Bye.